Thanks everyone for joining us for this session of Silver Spring Village presentation on how to protect yourself from common fraud. We are very pleased to welcome several guests today. Council Vice President Evan Glass is an at-large member of the Montgomery County Council. Elected in 2018, he serves on the Transportation and Environment Committee and on the Health and Human Services Committee, where he's the council's point person for homelessness and vulnerable communities. Councilmember Glass also serves as the Montgomery County Council's representative on the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board, that's a mouthful, and the National Association of Counties Transportation Committee and its large urban county caucus. Councilmember Glass is the first LGBTQ member of the Montgomery County Council. During his first term on the council, he successfully passed the Montgomery County Pay Equity Act, the LGBTQ Bill of Rights, and the Oversight and Small Business Investment Act. He spearheaded the efforts to expand food composting, make public buses free for all residents under the age of 18, and amend the county's charter to add 2 new council districts. Prior to joining the council, Glass was a CNN journalist and served as the executive director of the Gandhi Brigade Youth Media, an innovative youth serving after-school program. He lives in Silver Spring with his husband, Jason, and their 2 rescue beagles, Percy and Daisy. We're also joined by Eric Friedman, director of Montgomery County's Office of Consumer Protection. Mr. Friedman received a law degree from George Mason University School of Law and a BA in Political Science from George Washington University, and is a member of both the Maryland and DC bars. He currently serves as a consumer representative on Maryland's Collection Agency Licensing Board, appointed by Governor O'Malley and Governor Hogan. He has appeared on NBC Today Show and Dateline, ABC's 2020 and Good Morning America, CBS's 48 Hours, NPR, and has been quoted in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, US News and World Report, Money, and Kiplinger's. He's worked in Montgomery County's Consumer Protection Office for the past 40 years and seeks to leverage resources to focus on consumer scams, which target minority communities, seniors, and vulnerable consumers. The Office of Consumer Protection has a talented staff of 16 employees, a dedicated team of volunteers, and a $2.3 million budget. So with that, those introductions, I will turn it over to Councilmember Glass.
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Doug. And it is good to be with all of you from the village or villages. I'll get a readout from you later as to how many different villages are here, if it's the newly combined Greater Silver Spring Village or some other members from across the county as well. But I'm really glad to be here with all of you. I appreciate all of your engagement and I appreciate the villages and the collaboration with the county and the Department of Health and Human Services to provide support and camaraderie for all of you as we support your decision to age in place and to continue making Montgomery County your home. So I'm glad to be here with all of you. And Doug shared much of my bio and much of the work that I've been doing over the last 3 years, 4 years now. But the reason I'm here today is just to share with you the support that my office can provide. You're gonna hear from Director Friedman, and he's gonna talk about the Office of Consumer Protection, and not joining us today, but joining us in this effort is also the state's attorney's office, another leg of this stool of consumer protection and making sure that all of your rights are maintained. But one of the things, or a few of the things that I can be of help with in particular is you can reach out to me if you need help with government services. You know, most people think of trash pickup and fixing a sidewalk, getting a street light replaced, or even just navigating county government if you're doing an addition to your house or you need new permits as well, and the county government is not responding to you or they're not fixing your need as quickly as you may have liked, reach out to my office. We can pick up a phone, send an email, and make sure that your needs are fulfilled. That is one of the biggest services that I and my team can provide. And I'll share with you this little anecdote. Recently, a veteran moved to Montgomery County. He was overseas and he was having a house built in Germantown. And when he got here, he saw that his house had actually not received the correct permits. And the septic system in that new house had not gotten the required permits. And so it made the house uninhabitable. And here is a veteran coming back home without a home to move into. And so he had contacted me, and I immediately put him in touch with the Office of Consumer Protection. And so now hopefully the constituent and the office are working to bring this case to mediation. And it's stories like that that I see, quite frankly, all too frequently, but they're never going to make the news. They're never going to make it into an email. But those are some of the deeper issues that I can help with. And more broadly, here in Montgomery County, you are all part of the village, but here in the county, we have to recognize that our older population is actually making up the largest percentage of residents here in the county. And Montgomery County actually has the highest percentage of seniors living here than any other jurisdiction in the DC region. And so as we go through our budgets, as we plan for the future, I am certainly going to be keeping your needs in mind, recognizing that if you are to maintain a healthy, vibrant lifestyle, we need to put more supports in to help you, whether it is transportation, whether it's housing and recreation. But again, coming back to the theme of this evening, or this afternoon, actually, it is making sure that your consumer rights are maintained and that you're not scammed, and that what you pay for and the services you agree upon are fulfilled. And so that is my pledge to you. And so should you need a sidewalk repaved, a light fixed, permits delivered, or you feel like you have been scammed, don't hesitate to reach out to me and my team. And then of course, you're going to hear in a few seconds from the Office of Consumer Protection, which will elaborate a little bit more. But county government is here for you. Your tax dollars are being efficiently used so that we can help you provide the services that you need so that you are safe here in our community. And I appreciate everything that you all do and your engagement in this important issue. And so, Doug, I'll turn it back over to you. But last thing I'll say is I'll put my email in the chat box, and that way stay in touch with me, okay?
I always forget to unmute myself. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you, all that you do for the community and for older adults in particular. And also thank you in advance for connecting us with Mr. Friedman. And we are very interested to hear what he has to tell us. I personally have gotten 6 phone calls already today that were all scams. So I hope I learned something today too.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank Vice President Glass for the opportunity to spend some time with you. We are here to be of service, and we all work together. Without the County Council's support in giving funding to our office, we wouldn't be able to do all the things that we are able to do to help all the residents of Montgomery County, also help and businesses operate fairly in Montgomery County as well. And as Vice President Glass indicates, his office does a remarkable job with constituent services. We work closely with all the council members to help as much as possible. And really want to say, before I even say anything further, that we really applaud the work that all the villages do and the people who donate their time. Aging in place is incredibly important. I have an elderly parent who's doing exactly that in Bethesda. And it really is a team effort in every respect. So here's the good news. Sit back and relax. I'm going to share some information. But if you remember nothing else, just keep in mind that you can contact Vice President Glass's office. You can always contact our office, and we are here to be of service. We're very fortunate in Montgomery County to have the only standalone consumer protection agency in the entire state. Howard County has a little office in another department, and the state of Maryland has an office, but in Montgomery County, we are the only one in the whole state. As Vice President Glass indicated, we are part of a group of government of public safety, the public safety agencies. That's the fire department, the police department, the state's attorney's office, the other agencies that are here to protect consumers, sheriff's office, Homeland Security. We all work together to handle these kinds of problems. We really appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here. So glad that Vice President Glass put together a special newsletter just on consumer protection, and we're grateful for the support that we get. So what I'm hoping to do is just share some of the old scams with you, share some of the very latest, newest scams with you, offer some consumer tips. And I hope there are a lot of questions. It's a whole lot better to make sure that we're having a dialogue and being interactive and addressing things that of concern to you. Probably everyone on this call remembers the good old days when a crook had to pick our pocket in order to steal our money. Or if you were a woman and held on carefully to your purse, you wouldn't be the subject of a victimized, or a snake oil salesman had a knock on the door. But those days are long ago. Now it's a whole new world. We have a whole new marketplace out there. All the electronic ways that merchants can take advantage of us make it very complicated to protect ourselves as a consumer. According to the Federal Trade Commission, the #1 problem scam facing all of us are what they call imposter scams. Now, these imposter scams come in many different flavors. Basically, it's someone who's pretending to be something other than what they are, and they're trying to trick us. They're going to come to us several different ways. They're going to come to us in our email messages. They're going to come to us in our text messages. They're going to come to us by our telephone. As Doug said, robocalls. Robocalls are out of control. It's just something that the federal government has been fighting for over 15 years. We're getting a little bit better, but we're still losing the battle. They're going to come to us by pop-up ads. They will come to us by door-to-door as well. And we're even having troubles now lately with regular mailboxes. And I'll explain in a second how that might work. But again, you're all probably somewhat familiar with, and the people that you help age in place are going to be unfortunately subject to the IRS telephone scam. We're probably familiar with that. The phone rings, we answer it. Someone pretends to be from the IRS saying that we owe some money. Or it might be the jury duty scam, where someone calls us and it sounds like it's the sheriff's office or the bank, and it says we missed our jury duty and we're about to be arrested if we don't send some money to clear it up. There's all different ways of people pretending to be something other than they're not. And what we really have to keep in mind is a couple of things. One is, we learned and we did a very good job of locking our front doors. We've done a pretty good job of locking our car doors. And we have to remember that we have to do the same with respect to our telephones, our computers, and I'll go through a few tips on that. These are the ones that have been out there for a long time. There's the romance scams. They come in all different flavors. The grandparent scam is a very popular one that we've all probably heard about, where we get a phone call and someone pretends to be a grandson or granddaughter that has some type of an emergency, and they need some money. They've either been in a car accident, or they're in a hospital, or they've just been arrested, or some other excuse as to why money needs to be wired. And again, they're all going to try and do it by the same way. They're going to create a sense of urgency. It's an emergency. They have to catch you when you have a weak moment and get you to send some money, things of that sort. For people who are aging in place, another big thing they have to worry about are home improvement scams. There are unfortunately still a lot of unlicensed home improvement contractors that are out there, and they have the usual type of scams that you may hear about, or the people you work with may hear about, where someone says they're there to cut a branch or do some tree work, and then while they're cutting a branch, they say, "Oh, I noticed that your roof is leaking, we can take care of that. We had an elderly consumer, and this is on one of our, we posted on our website as well, an elderly consumer that had that exact thing happen to them. The unlicensed contractor said, let me check into your attic and see if that roof is leaking. And the crook went up into the attic with a spray bottle of water. And he actually sprayed the insulation in the attic so that he could come back down holding what he claimed was some wet insulation, showing this consumer that their roof was leaking, saying that he could fix it for $10,000. He received a check for $10,000. Turns out it was a total scam. Luckily, we were able to work with the police department and their financial frauds unit to get that resolved for him as well. But these are unfortunately the kinds of people that are out there. We have a lot of honest merchants out there too, of course. But there are people out there doing home improvement work, going door to door. Some of these people even have serious criminal practice histories, and you really wouldn't want to meet them on a blind date for sure. So we've got to be aware of that and that type of situation. Again, for people who are trying to live in place, they have to worry about taking care of their homes at the same time. You've probably all heard of the new terms and the new words that come out, dumpster diving, telling us to rip up all the documents we have before we put them in the trash, but somebody might be looking for them. We've heard of phishing as a crime, where these merchants try and trick us to give them personal or financial information one way or another. A lot of that's going to come through our computers. One thing to be very important and to be worried about is anytime you're on a computer and you receive an email message, or you really have no way of knowing who is on the other end of that computer unless you initiated the contact with them. And so you've got to be very, very careful. These crooks are clever and they're also sophisticated. And so we have to worry about that. So for example, it's going to be very frequent that you may receive an email message that purportedly or looks like it's coming from your bank. It might look like it's coming from Chase Manhattan Bank or Bank of America, or have the same logo, the same coloring, the same sort of information, saying that you've been a great customer to us. We want to make sure that we can maintain that relationship. We just want to verify your account. Just remind us of your account number. Tell us again where you live, things of that sort. Again, these are all the kinds of tricky scams that are out there. We're going to receive email messages that say the post office is trying to deliver a package, or FedEx has just delivered a package, and they want to verify that you're going to come and pick it up, things of that sort. There's so many different ways, and these crooks take advantage of what's ever happening in the news. As despicable as it may sound to you, we've even had these kinds of scams with respect to COVID. We've been fighting and worried about COVID for the last 2 years. In the beginning, we were receiving scams from people who claimed that they could tell you who on your block has COVID. They could send you a map if you could send them money, or they could tell you where to go to get a vaccine back when that was somewhat difficult to find. They can tell you they have products to sell to you. There's no limit to the kinds of scams that we are going to receive. About 48% or 50% of what we get on email doesn't even come from real people. It comes from machines, or what's called bots, B-O-T-S. So again, we just have to be so careful to be careful of what we click on, pop-up advertisements or things that we want to avoid. The president used to say that we wanted to trust but verify. As you remember, President Reagan would say, trust but verify. Unfortunately, I think we've come to the point now where it's just verify. We can't even trust first and then verify with the various kinds of scams that are out there. These are the things that we really need to worry about, unfortunately, all the time. I'm going to go through a couple of tips, tell you some of the latest ones, some latest scams we have. There's all sorts of new ways of doing things. For example, just even stealing a car. Now the new cars come with, instead of a key or a keyless, they come with a keyless fob that just hence sends out a signal. The crooks even now have a way where they can just capture that signal off your phone or off your keyless fob and steal the car, drive away, and you still have the fob in your hand. Just pretty amazing. There are problems with what we call porch pirates, where they steal sorts of information, have packages delivered to your front door, then take the package and run away with that. There are devices when you go to get your gas and put a credit card in, they have a device that sort of covers up, or even an ATM machine, so that it can gather the information off of your credit card and steal it that way without you even realize that it's going on. There are things called QR codes. You've probably seen them, and they can capture information off of there. So there's just so many different ways that these crooks can be clever and find ways of tricking us. A couple of things to keep in mind, just in terms of just basic tips, are you never want to click on attachments or on unsolicited email messages. It can cause damage to your computer. And again, you don't know who's on the other end of the computer or who's on the other end of the telephone. So you really never want to divulge personal information. You've got to be real careful with information on social media. The whole concept that we grew up with of privacy no longer exists. There is virtually very little privacy that's out there. With phishing scams that are out there, the crooks can gather information from Facebook's photographs and all the social media platforms, gather information and make it even more tricky for you to become a victim. Here's a very sad thing to keep in mind. We have caller ID on our telephones. You cannot trust whatever the caller ID says. Absolutely worthless, because you cannot trust it. A crook can make it very easy for their phone call to make it look like it's coming from 301, make it look like it's coming from a local number. They can make it say that it's coming from the sheriff's office. They can make it say that it's coming from the county council. They can make it say that it's coming from the IRS. So unfortunately, caller ID is of no value to helping us protect us as consumers. There are all sorts of tricks and a couple of stories that I do want to share with you. We had one in which the cashier at Safeway was a consumer hero. We had a Montgomery County employee, a very smart man who immigrated here from China, who received what he thought was the IRS. The IRS said that they're coming to arrest him because he didn't pay his taxes. And he got very scared, and his wife got very scared because they thought maybe they didn't fill out their taxes correctly. And so what this crook does, where they're calling you on your cell phone, is they said to him, you have to go now right away and go to a store and buy a card so you can send money to us, a green dot card or any other prepaid card. And some consumers might wonder, how could somebody be fooled by this? It seems like they're too gullible. Well, in fact, these crooks are very good. And yes, they don't hold a gun to your head. They don't physically tie you up, but they psychologically are able to tie you up. So they said to this man, you go down to the store and buy these cards. You've got to send us $2,000. Otherwise, the sheriff's office is going to be there and they're going to arrest you. And they tell the victim, they tell the consumer, stay on your cell phone. Don't get off the phone. We need to know where you are. So he said, okay, I'm getting in the car. Then he starts driving there. And the crook says, where are you now? And he says, well, I'm just about at the shopping center. Then he went into the Safeway store. And the crook's like, okay, where are you now? Did you buy the green dot card? And so this consumer went up to the cashier, who luckily was very smart and savvy. And he was sweating and he was nervous. And he had the cell phone in his hand. And he was buying 4 $500 each green dot cards to then send to what he thought was the IRS, but really it was just a crook. And he sent one, and then he went through the line again and sent another one. And finally, the cashier said, sir, stop it. You are in the middle of being a scam. You're talking to someone. She could recognize that he was sweating, and then he kept buying these green dot cards. And finally, she had to convince him to stop. Well, luckily, she stopped him before he had sent all of those, because those cards, you can never find the money. Once the money is gone, it's never going to come back virtually. It's almost impossible to get the money back. So these are the kinds of things we have to warn consumers about and our friends about. Gift cards, you can buy gift cards. Gift cards are only for family members. You should never send a gift card, and the federal government, a government agency, is never going to ask for a gift card or any other thing of that sort to be sent. But some consumers think they get this message and the crook says, well, send us some money by virtue of a gift card. We have to worry about cryptocurrencies and all different ways of making payments. We now have these peer-to-peer forms of sending money, Venmo and Cash App and things of that sort. These are devices that are made to be used only between people who know each other. If you go into a restaurant, college kids are doing this now, younger people, older people as well, to some extent. If you know somebody, you can send them money on Venmo, but you should never be using these kinds of platforms for sending money for something official to a merchant or to any other service. We had a complaint from a consumer who thought they had hired an honest plumber, but it turned out to be an unlicensed plumber. And the plumber did some terrible work, charged them $800 and said, send the money to me on Cash App. So this consumer sent $800. The only person that she sent it to, it just said Big Tom. That was the name on there. The work was completely of no value. They filed a complaint with our office, and it was almost impossible for us to locate that unlicensed plumber because the only receipt we had was a receipt from Cash App that said Big Tom. Well, you can imagine how impossible that is. So if that's the screenshot is all we had, we've got to be very careful about that. Door to door, sometimes a problem as well. Somebody comes by, they convince the consumer to pay some money. A home improvement contractor knocks on the door and says, with the typical scams, we have some leftover material from down the block. We can do a really good job for you. And all the consumer has is perhaps a card, a business card, or said it was a white truck, and we have to try and find that crook. It's almost impossible to do. Let me just run through a couple of tips. We have to be very careful about locking our front door. We know how to lock our car door. We have to lock our digital doors as well, meaning be very careful on computers, be very careful not to click on anything that you don't know about, pop-up ads, things of that sort. We have to be careful if we're using devices online, never to go to a public Wi-Fi and put in personal information at Starbucks or anything else. Again, they can steal that information very, very easily. Here's one little piece of advice is to treat our passwords like there are toothbrushes. Don't share them. We don't share our toothbrushes. We shouldn't share our passwords with anyone as well. For people who buy things on Craigslist, sometimes that can be an interesting thing to do, but it's also part of the Wild West. We've got to be very careful there. People are aware that people sell and buy things on Craigslist. I can assure you, if you ever sell something on Craigslist, you will receive a response from a crook. You'll receive a response from a crook who probably says, I'll pay you a check for too much, for more than what you're asking for, but you have to pay me the response, or pay me the change, and things of that sort. Lots of ways of tricking people that way. One of the, or probably the single best way to find an honest merchant in Montgomery County, of which there are many, for all different types of services, is Checkbook Magazine. Checkbook Magazine has been around for maybe 50 years, or almost 50 years as well. It is a nonprofit organization. It receives no money. There's no pay-to-play aspect to it. It's different than Angie's List or any other services out there, many of which don't do proper vetting. So Checkbook Magazine is probably the single best source. There are many honest merchants that are not referenced in Checkbook. That is correct, but the ones that are in there, you really can rely upon more than most anything else. Another good piece of advice is to trust our instincts. Many times a consumer will say, I felt something just wasn't right about that guy, when they go ahead and have to file a complaint with our office. Keep in mind, we as human beings we're still part of the animal kingdom. Sometimes we like to get all our information from an encyclopedia or a computer, but the bottom line is we have guts, and we have to check and maintain our instincts and keep that in mind. It's kind of interesting. I do something when we go to presentations, which I'm doing with John McCarthy in the State's Attorney's Office, where we do in-person presentations. I asked the question, what do you think is the most dangerous thing in your house with respect to physical harm. And consumers will raise their hands. They say, oh, it might be the stove. Maybe I can burn myself. Or someone else will say, well, it might be the furnace or the water heater because maybe it could blow up or I could get damaged by it. It turns out with respect to physical harm, the thing that sends more of us to the hospital than anything else in the home is your staircase. The stairs create more problems for consumers. But when it comes to financial harm, I bring to these meetings an old telephone, and I say, here's what's really the most dangerous thing for financial harm in your home, and lift up the telephone or the computer. So that's something to keep in mind. When we're looking at our email messages, you'll probably see things that might be spelt wrong. So if you think it's coming from a bank, it's really the bank's not exactly spelt right in the address that it came from. These are, again, things to look for, and that we have to just really be suspicious more times than not. People probably will have some questions. I'll be glad to try and answer anything we have. Again, keep in mind that our office is a law enforcement agency. We have the authority to issue civil citations, meaning fines to merchants that violate the various laws that we enforce. We have subpoena authority. We have a dedicated team of investigators that can help with all sorts of problems, just about any kind of transactions out there, questions, things of that sort. We actually received a referral from Senator Van Hollen's office from a consumer who we were told is 102 years old and has a complaint. We're going to be hopefully visiting his home to see if we can be of service to him. Our office has actually been around for just celebrated our 50th anniversary. Very dedicated people here. Again, we're here to be of service, whether you have a question or a problem. There's nothing to ever be embarrassed about. Sometimes consumers are worried about being embarrassed because they've been the victim of a scam. There's no reason to. Here, the biggest problem is identity theft. I can assure you, unfortunately, that with respect to identity theft, where someone steals our identity, steals our information, it is no longer a matter of if we are going to be the victim of identity theft. It's only a matter of when. So we can only do as much as we can to avoid it, shred our documents, make sure we don't give out personal information, things of that sort. But unlike, just like the common cold, we do what we can. If you believe in vitamin C, then take vitamin C, whatever. We do what we can, but ultimately we all will be the victim of some type of identity theft, one way or another, just by the nature of the way our marketplace is, the way that commerce is conducted electronically, the scammers that are out there. Unfortunately, these are what we have to worry about. But again, if you worry too much, you can get to the point where you don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. We're not suggesting that it's that bad, but we do have to just be concerned about it and be sure that we verify everything so we know who we're dealing with, who we're talking to, who we've received information from. And keep in mind, that there are a lot of despicable things going out. We even have to worry about the charities that we want to donate to. We are all going to be receiving, if we haven't already received them, phone calls from people who claim to be collecting money for volunteer firefighters or for the Montgomery County police staff. Keep in mind, Montgomery County pays the salaries of our firefighters and the police. These are all the scams that are out there that we're going to receive, that are phony charities, and that they're going to claim to be collecting money for the fire department, the police, for cancer research, or for any other good cause. And it is very despicable that we who want to donate to organizations that do great things, that we who are very appreciative of the services and protection that we are provided by the fire department, and of course, we'd want to give money to them, but we have to even worry about where we donate money with respect to charities. We're going to get ones regarding Ukraine and every other thing that's in the news. Anytime something happens in the news, there are going to be scammers that's sending out messages saying, here's how you can help deal with whatever natural disaster just happened. So we even have to worry about that. Also with charities, even real charities, we have to worry about how much money goes for the actual cause and how much money goes just to administrative staff there. So there's just no limit to the kinds of things that we do have to worry about. The marketplace is changing radically. We met with a company yesterday that makes electric vehicles. They sells these electric vehicles only online. They don't have a dealership in Montgomery County. And when they need to be repaired, they repair them online just as well. Just like they send updates electronically to our iPhones, they can do that. So the world is, it's just amazing how quickly it's changing. I can give you some reasons as to how that's happening or why that's happening, but I'd rather make sure we have a little bit of time for any kind of questions that you have regarding anything related to consumer protection, scams or questions. But otherwise, you just need to know that our office is here. We have a website that has valuable information. We have a YouTube channel called Consumer Wise, words Consumer Wise, one word, where we have many videos of our news shows that we've done, news reports on local, national TV as well, and alerts that we've sent out. So if you just go to YouTube and search under Consumer Wise, you can get information from us as well. We have Twitter account and all the social media as well. But as Vice President Glass indicated, we are here to be of service to you. We're very fortunate that we have a vibrant and active consumer protection office with dedicated people that are here to be of service to you. So I'll sort of hold off there in case we have, Doug, if we have any questions or chats coming in.
Sure. So I would invite people to ask questions. I see Gary has his virtual hand raised. So feel free to either use that little widget or you can just wave at me frantically and I'll try to catch that. Gary.
Yeah. Whatever happened to?
But yeah.
I'm sorry. I accidentally muted him when I was trying to put his hand down. Unmute Gary.
Hi, whatever happened to the do not call list, which was a government agency set this thing up that made it a violation. If you were to solicit by phone somebody who got themselves on the list, it was actual punishable violation. I got on it the first time and I still receive 1 million calls on my landline and 500,000 on my cell phone.
It is one of the most frustrating things, and we share that with you. The do not call list still exists. It's helped somewhat, but it clearly has not solved the problem. A couple of reasons. There are a few exceptions. Charities don't apply to it. People running for office, it doesn't apply to. But the biggest problem is there are a lot of merchants who just don't obey it whatsoever, and that these merchants are physically located all over the planet. So it's virtually impossible to take a whole lot of action. If the Federal Trade Commission has brought some legal action, but again, the problem has not been resolved. This is a problem that the federal government has literally been fighting for over 15 years and has made some progress, a little bit of progress, but it has never been fully resolved. In fact, until the telephone services really make a difference and they have the technology to really solve that problem. But it's incredibly frustrating. It's probably the #1 thing that infuriates consumers more than anything. There are a couple other things out there, predatory towing and things of that sort. But it's unfortunately, to answer your question, it's gotten a little bit better with that do not call list, but it's not something that can be resolved only in Montgomery County, obviously, but it's still not anywhere that it needs to be. And the federal government is continuing to work on what's already been a 15-year battle. While people are thinking of other questions, we have a couple of very short videos that I can share if it's of interest to anyone. We have a couple of things. One is actually, when we wind up, probably more enjoyable as a way to sort of end the session. But we have a little bit of an example, some amazing footage that we covered regarding a scam that happens in shopping centers frequently. People drive a car into a shopping center, and if it looks anything like my car, it probably has a dent or a scratch in it, because most cars do. And you will be approached by, in many cases, by unlicensed auto repair people who say, I can fix that scratch or dent that you have while you're doing your shopping, and it only costs you a few dollars. And we have, and if Maurice is able to pull it up, we can show you just a few seconds of this actually caught in action. Here are the people who've walked up to somebody and convinced them that for $50 or maybe $100 they can take out the dent. Again, these people are unlicensed. For sure, they are going to do shoddy work. They're going to take the money. They're very clever, because when after they finish the work, here they are pretending to be doing something. They're going to cover it up with chalk, and they're going to tell the consumer, well, you can't see what a beautiful job we did until it dries 24 hours from now. So of course, they'll never see, the consumers will never see them again. And so they drive home the next day, they take off the chalk, and they realize that nothing was done. This is a perfect example of how we work with the state's attorney's office and John McCarthy, because we've even had a situation where they did more than just steal money. What they did is they told the consumer it would be $100, and when they finished the work, they told this consumer, no, it was really going to be $200. And they intimidated this consumer, made the consumer go to their ATM machine to take money out. Well, at that point, it's becoming an actual criminal theft, not just a civil theft. And the state's attorney's office brought criminal charges against some of these we call them parking lot pirates, or we don't really know what to call them, dent demons, things of that sort. But these people are going on. The police have sent out an alert as well, but it's a perfect example. When they're just stealing your money, then it's our office handles it. But once they drive you to an ATM machine and scare you into taking money out, then it becomes the kind of theft that John McCarthy's office and the police department have to handle. But they'll come and go in Montgomery County, and it was just a miracle that we actually caught a group in action. We were able to get a little bit of video. We sent out an alert as well. We have another little video, since I think we still have enough time, about the grandparent scam. And this is one that the Federal Trade Commission, you may just enjoy this. It's really just sort of interesting. It shows that this grandparent scam is based upon our nature to want to help and protect and love those members of our family. And so we're going to flip through. We have a long PowerPoint, but I just would rather than read a PowerPoint to you, is share that with you. Here's a funny one that just shows how strong a parent, a grandparent, grandmother, grandfather will be to do anything to help and save their grandson or granddaughter, which is exactly why they might send money to somebody even though they shouldn't. It's just kind of a funny one. This is kind of a spoof on how turning grandparents into superheroes. Just a couple of seconds on this.
Your granddaughter has been incarcerated in a foreign jail. She has provided your number as a family representative to pay her bail. The only form of payment we accept is gift cards.
I understand. I got the gift cards. Now give me back my granddaughter.
So
I'm pretty
just
sure
a
that
little-
I'm pretty sure that grandmother is a member of Silver Spring Village.
Again, you get a call in the middle of the night. All of these scams are hoping that we will make a poor judgment just in a split second. Again, for email messages, if it's anything like my family, people check their email late at night, they're kind of tired. And as soon as they click on something, if it's a mistake, we typically say, why did I do this? Just all the crook needs is a split second for us to make an error. And again, it's so easy for them as they can send out millions of email messages. If only 1% of the population make a quick wrong decision, that's tons of money for these crooks. And there's so many different ways that they can do it. So we just really have to be careful, tell other people. And again, I think someone else has a question.
Yes, I do. Could I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
In summarizing, we've provided such helpful information. But, do you have any like steps that we could keep in mind? Like say when we can't count on caller ID, so we have to answer the phone. I mean, any steps about, what we should keep in mind when people call us and to protect us? And
Well,
also online too, just things that we can remember just to help us.
The thing you want to remember is that you want to initiate the contact. So I'll tell you what John McCarthy says on his cell phone. If he doesn't recognize the number, he will not answer it. And if they leave a message, then he can verify who that is and call them. So if you have a caller ID, let them leave a message. And if they say it's whoever it is calling, then you can initiate the call. If they say it's Bank of America calling or whatever, then you can check what the real number is. You have to initiate it. It's just like answering the door. If you can't confirm who's on the other end of the door, don't open it. So that would be my only advice there. It's unfortunate. There's no question about it. It shouldn't be that complicated. But our marketplace has just changed so drastically that's where we are now. So I would just simply say, do not answer the phone. First of all, keep in mind, we as individuals grew up with civility. We were never taught, and we probably never have. I know my elderly mother in her 90 something years, she has never slammed down the telephone when it's so your best bet is just not even to answer it. If they leave a message, you get the right number and call the bank. And if it's really the bank, then you can have the conversation.
Well, there's another question I have. Appreciate that. It's if the political groups call a lot, and I feel like I can recognize them, and they'll ask for a donation toward a senator or congressman or something or whatever. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think we should treat it the same way and just call back? Or
well, I would never give a credit card number over the phone if that's how they want to receive money. If you get a call from a political candidate and you want to give that candidate some money, you need to initiate the contact with that candidate, and do that sort. Again, you want to be the one that places the call. You don't want to be the recipient. You want to be the caller is basically what you have to do. And that's really the only way. You've got to verify a few things. You can use Google to verify addresses and names, things of that sort. But that's really the only way you can protect yourself. You could say, okay, candidate A, I like what you're doing. I will donate. I will go on the website and make sure, contact and make sure you're calling the right one. But you've got to be very careful because a correct one and a false one could really look similar. Just spelled wrong or the address is a little bit different, things of that sort. And
you could ask them for an envelope, for them to send you something.
Yeah, unfortunately, even that doesn't give you a lot of protection because with collecting money for the so-called volunteer firefighters and Montgomery, they would bring an envelope around as well and try and pick it up. You've got to verify who you're communicating with. You just can't rely upon the incoming information. That's about the only way that we can do it. And it requires more work on our part. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
There are other questions. Any other questions? Otherwise it's gone.
If not, I've got 20 seconds of music to share with you, just for your enjoyment. As with the last question from Ms. Hall, sometimes it can be difficult to pick out the scam from something that's not a scam. I don't know if people are aware of buskers, people who play music or sing on the street asking for money. And let me leave you with this last example, which is kind of funny, but it's supposed to be indicative of the fact that sometimes it's tricky or to know what's legitimate and what's not. Here is someone playing on the corner with a sign that says he has, I don't know, three children and he can't pay his rent. What does it say? I have three kids, or I think it's supposed to say kids, lost my job. I need money to pay the rent. Please help me. And apparently the question is this somebody who's really playing the violin, who really has 3 kids, who really has lost his job, who's really seeking your compassion for money? Or is it just a ruse, a scam, so that you can make some money? You be the judge, and here's a few seconds to sort of end our presentation here. You be the judge. I will confess that it fooled me. He was playing outside of a grocery store. I thought it was legitimate. I gave him some money. It turns out it appears clearly that number one, he was not playing the instrument. It was recorded. And number two, that it's not as the sign had indicated in terms of that why he was needing money. But again, that just shows you just a kind of a interesting example of how sometimes it's hard to tell right from wrong or correct from misleading or deceptive. But as I say, the only thing that we know for sure is that our office is here to help you. You can call us, you can send email messages to us, you can go to our website, you can go to YouTube at ConsumerWise, and we're here to be of service to you and to the people, your family, and to the people that you help age in place.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the information, and I wish everyone a scam-free day the rest of today. I don't think there's any point in wishing the scam-free week or anything, but maybe we can all get through the rest of today without being scammed. So again, Eric, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Dory, please give our best to Councilmember Glass, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you.